Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am your girl, Molinda Jae here, and yes, I am back. I took a hiatus because, for one, the full moon was whooping my tail, okay, for the most part, to where I just had to sit a whole week and a half out. So, to say the least, I am here to bring you all some content and to provide you some food for thought and opinion with the topics that I'll be talking about, such as the writer strike, the pilot strike, Jenny Craig going into bankruptcy, also the newlywed bride that had passed away hours after saying I do, the preciousness of life at its finest, and then of course with maternity, because it's a topic that I like to discuss in time for Mother's Day when it comes to doulas, okay? Whether it's for bringing into life or transitioning to the afterlife, to say the least. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into before I get into the topics as well, there's a couple other topics that I like to discuss, which is Disney being the Pac-Man of cable and streaming, to say the least. um so there are two things coming out swinging, if y'all have not seen it already on social media, when it comes to that as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the message, the article, my thoughts. Yeah, there you go. Let's go ahead and get into my thoughts, okay? All right, this. Let's go ahead and start with the pilots strike, and then we're going to segue over to the writer strike, because there's a lot of things to catch on, as basically companies are basically falling, to say the least. So this is coming from CBS News, and it's talking about, will a pilot strike disrupt your summer travel plans? And here's what to know. So what I gather from this particular article here is, who is involved. And of course, it's the pilots from Southwest, which the pilots from Southwest, they started making, noise around January, the start of the year. And of course, you all had played into effect, and well, we didn't play into effect into it, but to say the least, we were getting the effect because of the cause of what is going on, to say the least, with the cancellation of the airlines and the delays and all that, being backed up for people returning home from the holidays, right? And then, of course, fast forward to probably April, May-ish. That's when American Airlines, as well as Delta airline pilots, is ready to make noise as well when it comes to what are they asking for. Higher wages, higher pay, better scheduling to improve the efficiency and prevent widespread delays and cancellation. Basically, a flexible schedule and better pay, to say the least. All right. So I'm going to skim through this article. I'm going to read it all to y'all so we can have a better context with this. And it reads, contract negotiations are keeping thousands of commercial pilots grounded at a time when the nation will soon be entering a busy summer travel season. The Union Express pilots at American Airlines gave its members authorization to strike this week after contract talks had stalled. Pilots at Southwest Airlines are now voting on whether to walk off the job. Here's what to know about potential labor actions and how it could impact your summer travel plans if you plan on flying anywhere, to say the least. So why are the pilots threatening to strike? Two main reasons is for higher pay and better schedules. American airline executives are under pressure to match or beat the pay terms that Delta Airlines have given to their pilots earlier this year with a 34% raise over a 4-year contract. American Airlines also offered a 4-year deal that includes a 21% pay bump in the first year, including higher profit sharing, 401k retiring contributions. By the end of the contract, pilots who fly narrower planes who would earn $475,000 a year, while a senior pilot fly wide body planes, that's a tongue tire in itself, would make $590,000 a year. American Airlines Pilots Union said it is also seeking scheduling changes that the labor groups say would improve efficiency and prevent the kind of widespread delays and cancellations seen last summer. So I don't know if you all were affected by your travel plans last summer when they had these particular issues, but again, this is just a heads up in regards to if you're experiencing any mass cancellation delays because of this particular issue that is going on. So would a strike impact passengers' summer travel plans? Well, it all depends on how quickly airlines and pilots can agree to a new contract. In a statement this week, officials from American said they're confident that they can reach an agreement in their unions quickly. And they understand that the strike authorization vote is one of the important ways for pilots to express their desire to get a deal done. And they respect the voting results, as the American Airlines spokeswoman has stated. And of course, with the vice president for labor relations at Southwest said in a statement that the strike won't hurt the airline's ability to care for our customers, and the negotiations will continue with talks resume the following week, which was last week, because this article did come out on the 4th, and they'll keep working towards making a deal, making a better deal that is compromisable, that will satisfy the pilots, and the company will still be able to make their money, okay? However, failing to reach agreements will soon leave passengers frustrated in the coming months. And the summer travel season is almost here, and we're all wondering whether this will be another summer of uncertainty for American Airlines, says the union pilot president at American Airlines, okay? So in the meantime, what is happening? So American Airlines have organized a series of demonstrations at the airports, including in Boston, Dallas, Miami, New York, hoping to unmute myself. Yeah, okay. All right. So for the most part, both sides will continue negotiations, and hopefully they will come to the end of negotiation and make a deal at least by the end of this month, because again, the college students, they are starting to be released from school, but I'm pretty sure they'll be doing summer jobs just to have some money in their pocket. But again, they'll be out of school, and they're more likely want to travel. And then of course we have the rest of the students being released from school as well towards the end of the month. So to say the least, hopefully they can get a deal done in time. All right. So, and also where these strikes are happening at is in Boston, Dallas, Miami, and New York, from what I read so far. There may have been more added on since then, but as far as I can see right now, it's only Boston, Dallas, Miami, and New York as far as the pilot strike. So hopefully they are able to reach an agreement so the pilots can continue to doing what they love, serving others and flying and making sure people get to their destination safely. And then of course, the companies, they are always going to make money, but hey, it's all about if you need somebody to get you to point A to point B, of course, you're going to need a pilot. So in order for workers to stay within the company, wherever they choose, the least that companies can do is give their employees a proper deal, a proper offer, due to the standard of living that is going on nowadays. Okay, now let me go ahead and switch on over to the writer strike, the simple questions that are being asked, which is who is involved. And of course, it is the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike. Okay, and I wanted to go back to the Wikipedia page too, because it gives a good synopsis. So, yes, who is involved? The 2023 Writers Guild of America, okay, and the Alliance of Motion Picture. Here we go. This is where I'm reading it right there. And then the television producers, which and televisions and the producers. Okay, what is going on? Well, there's a labor dispute between the Writers Guild of America, the union, which is the WGA, and the Alliance of Motion Picture of TV Producers, and the acronym for that is AMPTP. And when did this go into effect? Of course, May 2nd, 2023 at 12:01 a.m. Where specifically in the United States right now, as far as I have read from the beginning of this week when I was doing my research, is California and New York. Okay, why is this happening? And it is due to the lack of, here we go. Why is this happening? The cause, the lack of agreements on the new contract between the Writers Guild of America Labor Union and the Alliance of Motion Picture and TV Producers. So how many people are involved, or how many are involved, is 11,500 writers. And the goal for this is to increase funding, job security for writers, increase the size of writers' room, limit the use of artificial intelligence, aka AI, in writers in the writing process. And then the methods when it comes to this strike is picketing, protesting, and striking. And what shows are affected, and this is what shows are affected. That will be coming from the Variety article. So I wanted to read this, to do a read along with you all with this, because this is a very good article on breaking this down. Okay, so it reads, the news that the Writers Guild of America is currently on strike might be confusing to the casual TV watcher. After all, there are more TV than ever thanks to the explosion of streaming platforms. The supposed limit of the peak TV is a staggering 599 script series in 2022. And besides, the people who get to write Succession or Yellow Jackets have exciting creative jobs, right? What could they possibly have to complain about? It turns out a lot. The people who make TV and movies aren't just creatives and artists realizing their childhood dreams. There are also people who get up every day to go to work at their highly demanding, exceedingly precarious jobs. And like many other jobs across the country, it's getting harder and harder to make a living as a writer, even for people who are getting work. Over the past few days, thousands of WGA, Writers Guild American writers, have been out on picketing lines, California and New York, chanting outside of studios and waving signs with slogans like "Can't Netflix and chill when writers have bills?" and "What would Larry David do?" I'm going to go back to that phrase in just a minute. Writers and other workers standing in solidarity have been blocked production on sets, It seems like everyone involved in the fight is digging their heels for an extended battle, but what they are fighting for over exactly. So, back to this sentence. What would Larry David do? So, you know me, I'm like, who is Larry David? Why would they say, what would Larry David do? Like a parody of what would Jesus do? So, to say the least, I looked up Mr. Larry David. Now, those of you all know Larry David. So those of us that don't know who Larry David is, and in regards to his network in 2023, it's pretty good. How he made a fortune from Seinfeld and Curb Your Appetite. If we had the Larry David's cash, we have a hard time curbing our enthusiasm about it. So what is about that phrase of what will Larry David do? So Mr. Larry David network is very large, to say at least. Well, it was until he got divorced and his wife took half of it. And it explains it in this paragraph here. So, and when he talks about his wealth, he is, very uneasy and unamused, to say the least, when it comes to discussing it. And within this paragraph, it reads, I don't have anything near that I'm reputed to have. My wife got half of it. The whole thing is ridiculous, and yet people are obsessed with the fact that I've made millions of dollars from syndication. He grew up from to Rolling Stone in 2011. It's okay for all these other people you have interviewed have it, but not me. Jerry's not getting asked about how much money he has. Only I am. It comes down to Jerry deserves it. He starred in it. You got lucky. It doesn't suit me. That's why it's uncharacteristic for a person with my personality to have it. That's what's a cue, right? Something is off, and I agree with you. I shouldn't. It's a normality. Okay. So how did he get famous? Well, he was born and raised in Brooklyn and attended the University of Maryland College Park, getting his bachelor's degree in history. After college, he served 5 years in the Army Reserve. Once discharged, he pursued stand-up comedy while working a series of odd jobs making ends meet. In 1980, David got his first comedy writing and acting job for ABC variety show Fridays. He met Michael Richards while working on the show, which ended in 1982. In 1984, David wrote Saturday Night Live, meeting with Julia Louis-Dreyfus on that show, which I believe that is his ex-wife now. Let me scroll back up. Oh, it doesn't say on that paragraph. But other than that, David then wrote for and performed in Way Off Broadway, a Lifetime show also featuring future co-star of The View, Joy Behar. David and Jerry Seinfeld first developed the concept of Seinfeld in 1989, working up a pilot called The Seinfeld Chronicles. NBC picked up the show, and the rest is history. What is David Larry's net worth? Well, in 2023, it was estimated in a whopping $40 million. However, David said that the fortune is ridiculous and absurd because, again, his wife took half of it in the 2007 divorce, okay, when he did that interview with CBS. So, to say the least, he is basically living frugally, okay? And is Larry David richer than Jerry Seinfeld? Well, according to this article, it says David is not nearly as rich as Seinfeld. The comedian, actor, and beloved sitcom namesake is worth a massive $950 million, according to Celebrity Network. This is thanks to, obviously, Seinfeld and its residuals. And that's the important thing right there, residuals. As most other creators have mentioned when they had discussed with the writer strike, is all about the passive income getting residuals, royalties, all that. Okay. He isn't paid for creating, producing, and writing in the series, but also for starting in every episode of his show, giving him a monetary leg up over David. David also stepped down from the series after the 7th season, although he returned to write the series finale. And like David, Seinfeld earned $75 million for selling Seinfeld to Netflix in 2019. Okay, and that's why it's on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix or not. Comment down below if it's still on Netflix, because I don't watch that show. Okay, I grew up watching other things. Okay, so how is Larry David so rich? Well, again, it largely comes from Seinfeld, which he co-created, wrote, produced, and occasionally appeared in, as well as the syndication from the series. As of 2013, Seinfeld reportedly netted over $3 billion in syndicated earnings. So at that time, when your show ended up becoming syndicated, that was considered a big deal back in the day. Now it's like a give or take, because we have streaming services that is the competition for cable network nowadays. And then of course there's a reason why there are some people, aka Tyler Perry, be writing, directing, producing his own content, because he probably already knew from the jump that he was not going to get paid much from just writing. So to say the least, there is a reason why people like Tyler Perry, and possibly Lee Daniels, and possibly Will Packard, and other big time directors, to say the least, or multifaceted individuals in the industry, would do majority of the thing, not only to cut costs, to keep it in house, but also to make sure they're getting their money's worth. Because again, if you're not doing it by yourself and you actually have a team of people, of course you got to pay them, and then you got to pay them adequately so they can maintain their standard of living as well. So if your show was syndicated back then, and of course you co-created, you wrote it, you produced it, and you appeared on your actual show, then you was going to get a large lump sum of money from it, because you kept it all in house and there was hardly anybody there to do what you're doing, okay, to say the least. All right. And then also it says within this paragraph, David and the star had each had a 7.5% back-end share, similar to box office points for movies, which increased to 15% during the series' peak. In 1998, Seinfeld was sold to syndication for a whopping $1.7 billion, netting David a massive $250 million. In 2015, when Hulu obtained the streaming rights for Seinfeld, he made an extra $80 million plus $75 million just for 4 years later, when Netflix got the streaming rights to the series, per The Hollywood Reporter. Okay, so to say the least, that's why the writers had that particular, which all comes full circle now on why the writers would have what would Larry David do, because it seems like Larry David had already figured it out back then that, hey, in order for me to make it out here, because I'm already busting my butt with all these jobs just to make ends meet, and that was back in the 70s and 80s, y'all. You're trying to do what you love, but at the same time, work ain't honest, but it got to pay the bills. So you got to get a 9-to-5 or a steady income coming in so you can be able to branch out and do what you love. So to say the least, he already had it made up in his mind back then, like, hey, in order for me to make the paper roll, I got to be able to do some things beyond my comfort zone, so I can be able to live the life that I would like to live. However, when it came to that divorce, that's what really just chopped it in half. Okay, so on back to the article. Now that we all got a basic understanding for this, okay, so what makes, and now I gotta scroll all the way back up here. So why aren't Hollywood writers getting paid super well? Well, according to this particular paragraph here, it was mentioning someone like Sydney Sweeney, a rising star in HBO. Paycheck still struggles with money, and like any creative field, there are a few people who make a lot of money as screenwriters. And that's crazy because they are the backbone on how a show is being produced. Besides the directors and the production crew, you got to have some type of script for people to read off of, unless they are doing this stuff impromptu mode, so they can be able to captivate the audience. So in large part, here we go right here, that's because writers as well as actors, directors, and everyone else are getting paid far less in residuals than some of the A-listers. Residuals offer money to pay people who work on a piece of media when it gets repackaged and sold and re-aired. Just like Seinfeld, it went from regular television, or whichever form it started from. Then it went from syndication. After syndication, that's when technology increased with streaming services. So that's when it went from Netflix, then it went from Netflix to Hulu, then from Hulu back to Netflix. All right. Also, that's why syndication used to be such a big deal, getting to the point where your show was being aired on TBS or Comedy Central, meaning that you were sharing profits and success of the show and getting guaranteed repeated checks for years. In other words, a steady income. Is no different than music artists that are trying to get their masters or have their masters in place as they are producing their music. That way they can have a constant income and royalty checks, like the catastrophe that happened with the SWV and Escape situation of a particular company, Sound Exchange, was seeking our royalties on behalf of the artists, because back then the music artists were not getting paid like that neither. Okay. So, to say the least, it's all of fluff at the end of the day. But it says the system set in place that ensures creatives this level of sharing and profits from their work was decades in the making. Okay, so what makes streaming different is that the last time the Workers Guild Association went on strike in 2007, when streaming services was coming up, it was a major point of contention and negotiations, because every time distribution technology changes, the writers have had to strike to make sure they're fairly compensated. So it's a repeated effect. Each time something is being introduced for us to soak in and entertain, and people are not getting their fair share of it, that's what leads people to getting for what they are worth. All right, and that's us as everyday individuals, is it not? So it was a major point of a contention in negotiations, because I already read that. So writers had to strike to make sure they're getting fairly compensated. The first WGA strike in 1960 resulted to writers getting a share of profits when a movie was aired on TV, while in 1973 the strike focused in part of emerging market of cable, and then in 1980 the fight was over home video. So you see the drastic changes that happens within entertainment, from movies being aired on TV and then get into the market so you can reach a broader audience. And then it led to home videos where DVDs is coming out, CDs, VHS tapes coming out. And then fast forward to 2007, that's when the new media came arise with distributing online, like the World Wide Web. And that was covered by the Guild's minimum basic agreement, which guarantees the lowest amount members can be paid for their work. The 15 years since, they have seen an explosion in TV production, largely tied to streaming services, meaning that more and more writers are doing work that pays worse and is less secure. To use a phrase from WGA TV show, it's all about doing more with less. In other words, like work hard and work harder instead of working hard and working smarter, not harder. So this same philosophy is beyond another practice the writers are opposing in many rooms, which are essentially writers' room with fewer writers contracted for shorter periods on time. On these kind of jobs, fewer writers work for less time and lower pay in a fashion that is far less connected to eventual finished series or movies. If you see someone describing the studios as attempting to turn writing into a gig work, that is what they're talking about. And so, for example, if your friend was like, hey, I'm going on set for a little gig and I'll be back, it's basically them saying, hey, I'm going to go to these mini rooms and do what I need to do, and then come on back and hopefully I can reap some form of benefits. But to say the least, the benefits is just like chump change and not like in lump sums, okay? So that's what leads to AI, okay? AI coming to a factor. Of course, everybody has been talking about it here, there, everywhere. And with this particular problem, and other content creators have mentioned this, like April L. Butcher from Common Sense Social, and a couple more content creators, like, it's good to use AI, but don't make it to where it is a crutch for you to create and not be able to put your own little spin to it. Because yes, people can tell when something sounds robotic and something sounds something is coming from the heart. So to say the least, there needs to be an equal balance if you're using AI. But if you're using AI straight up just to come up with a script and just be like, hey, here, there you go, go ahead and recite those and stick to the script, then the audience will know about it. The audience is going to become very predictable, and audience, as a consumer, we're not gonna like that, because that's going to turn us off. It's not going to give us a thrill. It's not going to give us a surprise element, a cliffhanger, anything. So to say the least, tread lightly with AI, okay? All right. So what the studios have to say, basically, they are just like this mode. Like, okay, you throwing, it's basically like a parent looking at the kid as they're throwing a fit, to say the least. And at the end of the day, the kid is going to get their way one way or another. It's just how they approach the situation. But as far as I read from this particular paragraph here, it's basically the it's hard for the older generation, the seasoned generation, to adapt to change. And it's going to take some time, to say the least. But again, this right here is playing to effect on how the content when it comes to shows and movies is going to come forward us within the next couple months, probably a couple years, if there's no agreement being resolved. And then how does this affect the consumer? Well, what I got from this paragraph, we won't be, I mean, to say the least, we won't feel it like all crashing down at the same time, but it's going to be little inklings of it, because I just seen a post last night, a Twitter post last night, about P Valley is going to be placed on pause because of the writer strike that is going on. And then of course, it talked about the show Beef on Netflix, which is a very good show now. And I have not finished it yet, but to say the least, it was mentioning how the creator had basically did an impromptu for the season finale. So I have to keep watching and see what come about with this season finale with the Beef series on Netflix. And so let me just redirect y'all to some of the shows that are being affected if you have not heard about it already. So and with this particular article coming from Variety, is basically updating probably on a daily, hourly basis on which shows that are going to be affected by this strike. So to say the least, to the start of it, it says the Writers Guild strike has officially begun. Of course, the picket lines have formed across Hollywood and New York. The halt meaning for Hollywood shutdown, and this hasn't happened since the panoramic, but the last WGA strike took place 15 years ago. Wow. It really doesn't seem that long, but it has. And Variety will keep us updated in regards to a list of shows that are being affected. So it has been updated probably about a couple of days ago when I pull up this article that Andor, Stranger Things, Evil, Blade, Rings of Power are going to be affected. Late night shows such as Go Dark, ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Late Show, NBC Tonight, and The Late Night are all on hiatus. HBO will also seize live productions of Real Time with Bill Maher and Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. Comedy Central's The Daily Show, which was currently being hosted by rotating cast of comedians, is also on hiatus. Abbott Elementary is on pause from now. It was supposed to resume on May 2nd. AMC shows like Walking DEAD is are done, but no production has started. And that's just the scripts. The scripts are done for the spinoff series, but the production has not started. Andor, which is on Disney Plus, I believe so. Big Mouth, which is on Netflix, which it says animated series, was 6 weeks into writing the 8th and final season of the show, and the creators would have finished the writing in August without a strike. So that is on pause. Blade is on pause, which is a Marvel, has shut down pre-production on the reboot of that. Cobra Kai, it closes writer rooms for season 6. And yeah, there are no writers are currently on set for season 6 production. Evil, which is on production for season 4 on Paramount Plus, is being affected. Good Omens is being affected as well. Gut Feel is being affected. House of Dragon, Jeopardy, MTV Movie Awards was definitely affected, and that was just this past Sunday, where the host Drew Barrymore has stepped down from it. I believe that was done at the last minute. Rap-ish is on pause. Let's see. It says production on second season of Issa Rae series wrapped in April. Rings of Power, and I'm assuming that is a spinoff from Lord of the Rings. Saturday Night Live, Stranger Things, The Talk is affected. So the daily talk show would not be filming. However, previously recorded episodes are scheduled to air and remain on schedule. The episode listings previously released remain curated for the week. And then Yellow Jackets have also been affected as well. So to say the least, that is what is going on with the writer strike. At the end of the day, it's just basically us regular schmeckler people standing up and not taking any more mess when it comes to our basic necessities: food, water, shelter. And if we don't have enough money to provide those amenities, then of course it's going to lead to where we really have to band together and actually fight for what we want. Okay, so with that being said, those are my thoughts with the writer strike and the pilot strike. At the end of the day, it's just basically folks just standing up and wanting better pay for themselves so they can live comfortably, just like how the 1%er and the rich folks live comfortably as well. All right, so I will see you guys in the next video, and yeah.